Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today we're going to be going over just what's going on with the market, what's been happening, what's going to happen next, a lot of that type of stuff. Of course, what we have seen recently in the market is not particularly positive, but over this past probably week, maybe even a couple of days, we've started to see the market kind of rebound a little bit, and maybe not even totally rebound, but hopefully seem to find some bottoms and find some footings at some key levels of support, kind of market wide. And so that's, I think, a really good thing that we are seeing. I just want to talk about what could we potentially be seeing next. Is all season still on? Is it still off? All that type of stuff. I know we've been talking about that a lot lately, but there's a lot of also like really important economic events coming out this week that we will want to be kind of keeping a very close eye on, because usually when these types of things happen, volatility increases, volume increases, a lot of that type of stuff, which is a little bit interesting because we have seen both volatility and volume die down a fairly substantial amount over the past several days. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. But starting out, instead of going to crypto bubbles, we're actually just going to take a super quick look at the economic data events that we have this week. Also, I've had Doc on my channel several times before. Doc's a good friend and also a really good YouTuber. So if you have any questions or anything, follow his X, follow his YouTube, all that type of stuff. But what we can see here is he did a post that I have reposted, and it's a huge week for economic data and events. So we can see Tuesday, Powell delivers his biannual report to Congress. Wednesday, we've got Powell speaks with the House Financial Services Committee, core CPI, all that type of stuff for, January, year over year, month over month, all that type of stuff. You can see Thursday, jobless claims and PPI. Also, the Fed total assets will get maybe a little bit more clarity on what they're doing with their balance sheet. Are they continuing tightening? Are they planning on continuing tightening? All that type of stuff. And then Friday, U.S. retail sales data. As mentioned here, don't get shaken out. Try not to be using too high of leverage, just because weird things can happen with events like this, and also expect high volatility. Now, obviously, I had a little bit of some additional to add on here. Is basically, I'm a little bit interested to see how, because I think this like high volatility is probably correct, but we've also seen basically people get completely crushed over the past couple of weeks in leverage, and it doesn't, at least so far, we'll take a look at this in a second, but at least so far it doesn't look like people are levering up too much again in this market. And so what that does, we'll have to see, because usually leverage is what makes the market a little bit more erratic than it might be otherwise. And so with possible low leverage, maybe we'll see a little bit less volatility than what we might otherwise. So anyway, something to keep an eye on there. Also, we'll look at crypto bubbles. We can see, as I was talking about, a little bit of some relief rallies going on here. We can see virtuals, when we talk about on the channel, fairly frequently up 20% just today. Caspa 17, ADA 15. What else? SPX 22, PulseX 20. SUI 12. So I mean, some pretty good names up a decent bit today. It's been pretty nice to see a little bit of a recovery here after some pretty brutal couple of weeks. As we can see here on the week, a couple big gainers here and there. Some still red, so not all green everywhere. But we are seeing some pretty big gainers. And then if we go back to the month, still pretty red everywhere. So we'll have to kind of wait for some of these major red days to roll off. Is probably more what's going to happen than seeing some major green days, in my opinion. That's probably what's going to happen here. But overall, we'll just have to see. If we do look at the Bitcoin chart, we will see looking pretty nice, right? And so we're going to be talking about altcoin season a little bit later on in the video. We saw Bitcoin make that initial run up, and then it's basically consolidated relatively close to all-time highs. If we do look, we can do actually like a quick price range. I don't think it's come back kind of within a range. Yeah, it's been within like a 20% range if we're going to kind of round up, 18.5 if we're going to get exact, but a pretty tight range to consolidate. And when you think about kind of some of the moves that we have seen on the year, I'll do this. We'll kind of back out a little bit just so you can see kind of what we've seen over the past, what is this? Basically since like the end of 2022, it's basically been up only on a long enough time scale, right? Obviously, we've got months of consolidation here and there, right? So there is a possibility that we do potentially see more months of consolidation at this level. I would get prepared for that. I'm not saying that that's super likely, but I would say get prepared, because there is a very strong possibility just from what we've seen in the past. I mean, even from here, I mean, this was like a 7 or 8 month consolidation process that, again, you know, we broke out and it broke up super quick, but it was a very, very long time to get there. And so anyway, just something to think about. But overall, you know, I'm very pleased and very happy with what we have seen kind of coming out of Bitcoin recently. If we zoom really, really in here, and we're going to just kind of be looking at more like candle specific. Keep in mind, this is the dailies, but we could see previously there was a lot of resistance kind of coming up into this zone. We have, at least so far, seemed to put a little bit of momentum up in this direction, but it's looking like there could be a possibility that we get maybe rejected here. Again, who knows for sure, but I'm just saying that, like, at least in the very recent past, we have seen some pretty big wicks coming to the upside here. So just be careful, you know, again, don't go too crazy, you know, don't go 50x long stuff or 100x long stuff. I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want. This is not financial advice, all that type of good stuff, but it's not something that I personally would be doing. And then also, if we look at Ethereum, just to kind of get a sense of kind of the two big the big movers in the space, we can see kind of something similar, but in a much worse position. If you look over the past several years, we could see, you know, kind of really, really strong moves to the upside here, but the level of ranging that we've seen basically for like a whole year at this point, or over a whole year, has kind of been between like that $2,100 to like $4,000 or $4,100 range. So very, very like large space that we've kind of been moving in and out of. It looked like maybe we'd kind of put that behind us after this move up that we saw in November, but we did come back down to these levels. So yeah, I would say kind of, you know, some pretty strong support down at this like 2,100 level. But between kind of 21 and 4,100, it's just kind of been ranging, not really enough momentum to break outside of this $4,100 range. Previous all-time highs being close to about $4,800. So still have not reached new all-time highs for Ethereum. Ethereum been a little bit disappointing this cycle, a bit of a lagger, but I think, you know, we could potentially see more from Ethereum coming. Again, we got some news on that as well, so we'll be covering that here in a second. But yeah, I mean, recent performance not particularly great. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at with both Bitcoin and Ethereum. We'll actually throw in Solana here just because Solana has been doing relatively well. It's definitely overperformed Ethereum over the past several years, or probably 2 years, let's say. But if we look, we can see same type of thing with Solana here. We can see, you know, consolidation here, break to the upside. We have been kind of consolidating again, but at a much higher level. We did see this really strong push to the upside here, which is part of like Trump's token, and then we saw obviously that massive breakdown, and we've been kind of down only since then, again having seemingly found some support. So we'll see. No guarantees in life for sure, but if you are interested in trading, you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, any of that type of stuff, wanting to kind of get in on some of it, again, you know, I would not personally be trading super high leverage at this point, but I do think just kind of what we're seeing on prices, things looking pretty nice from a potential like DCA or a low leverage accumulation type of perspective. So if you are interested, 10% bonus on first time deposits, extra bonuses up to $10,055 per user, and no VPN or KYC necessary if that is something that you are interested in. So like I said, just check the link in the description below if that is something that you are wanting to do. Again, you know, no pressure, but if you are looking for a place to trade, BTCC is a really great option. So moving on, we can take just a super quick look at the market overview. As we can see here, open interest starting to come back a little bit. Volume, as I mentioned, kind of down pretty strongly, and it's been trending down over the past probably it's like the lows that we haven't seen since like the beginning of November. I think that makes sense. Obviously, as I mentioned, people have been just getting crushed, but we can see on the RSI heat map, kind of lending credence to what I was saying, is most things coming out of the oversold territory. Still a decent chunk in the weak category, but more kind of popping up into this neutral area. And then the average RSI coming up almost into neutral, still in weak, but we have seen that probably the lows coming in. Again, who knows? It's crypto. Anything could happen, but it's looking likely that the lows are probably in it, at least for this kind of like local area. We can see on the Fear and Greed Index still holding it neutral. I did actually go into like the Fear and Greed Index thing to see kind of where we've been, and if you look for the past week, all in neutral. If we look at the past month, 9 days in neutral, but most of it been in greed and extreme greed. So we have kind of trended down out of greed into neutral. we've been getting really, really close to fear. Haven't actually seen it dip into that yet. So that's just something that we have been monitoring. I mentioned several months back when we kind of saw the crazy pump that we might come back and see fear. So far, we haven't yet. It's getting very, very close. So we'll see. I'm a little bit skeptical. I think it's possible, but as I've mentioned probably about a month or so back, I don't know if it's in the cards, especially with this most recent dump. I mean, I would have called altcoins in like extreme fear. I mean, everybody was freaking out. And so, the fact that still didn't pull us into fear leads me to believe that maybe we won't see it. Again, I still, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it, but right now, that's a pretty low conviction play of mine is kind of where we're at on the fear and greed index. Again, if we do look at the exchange liquidation map here, we can see volume very low. Total liquidation leverage is about 1.8 billion up to 108K, and then total liquidation leverage on the long side is only 2 billion down to about 88. So still, like I've been saying, very, very low volume. People got absolutely smashed in that recent liquidation event. We can see even here 5 billion and 4 billion. So, I mean, usually these are about double what this is, or at least that's what they have been recently. So I think people still a little bit nervous to get too heavy into crypto yet, which honestly is good. I think having that liquidity flush was a good thing, or that leverage flush was a good thing. And I'm pretty happy with kind of where we're sitting at right now. Looking at the altcoin season index, we can see we're at a 45, trending a little bit closer to Bitcoin season, but still kind of in the middle. Again, a little bit surprising to me. Bitcoin is held up so much better than all the rest of the alts, or at least most of the rest of the alts, that I am a little bit surprised it's still kind of more toward the middle here. If we do look at the month, though, I mean, we are actually in Bitcoin season or Bitcoin month. So things definitely kind of reacting more of how I would have expected here. And then if we look at the year, again, I think this kind of tracks pretty closely to what I was expecting to see. This altcoin season chart, I think it's giving altcoins maybe a little bit more credit than they deserve, at least at this point in time, in my opinion. So something to think about there. Obviously, you can kind of do with that what you will. The last thing I want to show you guys is just some news that we've been seeing off of Twitterverse, or the Xverse, I guess we can call it now. I have been trying to be a lot more consistent with posting things on my Twitter account. So if you are looking just for kind of some quick and easy news updates that come across your feed and are super quick to go through, and it's not like a whole YouTube video or stuff like that, just feel free to follow my Twitter account. I've got all the links to that in the description below as well. But I have been kind of, as you can see, posting a whole bunch of different things here that are kind of widely applicable, I would say, to the crypto space and just the big picture adoption of crypto long term. So as we can see, we're also seeing a little bit of like some battles going on and some contradictions happening. And so what we can see here, massive Ethereum accumulation. Long-term holders just grabbed 330,000 Ethereum, hitting a record 19.24 million total. Do we see a price surge next? Who knows, right? I mean, but that's a pretty decent chunk of Ethereum that the whales are grabbing onto. And then we'll come back to some of this type of stuff. But if we see up here, we can also see that speculators have built the largest ETH short position in history. There's never been a larger short position on Ethereum, which is pretty crazy because we also were seeing that whales are really stocking up on Ethereum. So hard to say for sure exactly what's going to happen there, right? But then obviously we'd see Bitcoin and Solana really holding up the market while everything else has been doing pretty poorly. Hyperliquid one as well, but Bitcoin and Solana kind of the two big ones. We also could see that XRP has seen price slumps happening while we've otherwise seen positive news, a lot of that type of stuff. So if you have any sort of interest kind of keeping up with some of these types of things, you can see here El Salvador backstacking more Bitcoin, which is great to see. A lot of this type of stuff, like I said, just feel free to check my X account in the links in the description below. But a lot of different interesting things. The two biggest things I did want to kind of highlight on and talk to you guys about were the apparent war that we are seeing going on with Ethereum. Whales definitely still kind of loading up on more, but we also do have a lot of people kind of building up some large shorts. It looks potentially institutional, but hard to say for sure. We'll have to see who's right. Obviously one of them will be right and make a ton of money, and the others will be wrong and lose a ton of money. So, only time will tell for sure. But things definitely looking like we may be seeing some. It looks like we're seeing the kind of the liquidity, or at least the open interest, stack up on Ethereum. So if/when Ethereum does start to move, there's going to be a bunch of volatility happening, whether it's a short squeeze or, I don't know exactly. Maybe, whales start to lose conviction and start dumping on the open market, all that type of stuff. Lots of crazy things going on. Who's to say exactly what's going to happen? But overall, we'll be here the whole time, keeping you updated on what's happening as things unfold within the crypto space, all that type of stuff. So if you do find the information like this useful, just give me a like and a subscribe. Turn the bell on for all that type of stuff so you can, get notified whenever I release new videos and keep up to date with all the things that are going on, just kind of within the wider crypto market. So also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, things like that, just drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of those. So if you have anything that you want me to see, that'd be a really good way to do so. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.